This box almost feels like there's absolutely nothing inside of it. Did they jip me?
As I mentioned earlier, this mouse just, the box itself with the mouse inside just hardly weighed anything at all. And now getting all the stuff out, packaging, box out of the way, this mouse literally almost has no weight. Well, obviously not. There's a little bit of weight to it, but it actually almost matches like the weight of a freaking, just a couple of bricks of Legos. But absolutely amazing looking design here for the Roccat Kone Pro. Go ahead and take a look at the box a little bit more deeper here. Obviously the 19K DPI you can see over here, 66 grams, even under 100 grams right over there. And some other details here. Obviously a very iconic shape. This honeycomb shell inside that you can't see, but you probably will be able to see it once the LEDs are on. And you can actually see here the Titan Wheel Pro. The wheel actually really does feel very, very solid. Something I'm very picky about when picking out a gaming mouse, or even one to just use it in the workplace. And of course, your LED options and everything else that comes with such an amazing mouse like this. A couple little things that did come with it, instruction manual and everything. I'm not sure if there's stickers included, but here's something that I find very unique and actually very helpful. It did actually come with an additional pair of stickers over here for the bumper underneath to include on the mouse, which is really useful. Now, something to keep in mind, from what I'm being told, this is only included on the wired version of this mouse, not the wireless one, but someone call me out if that is absolutely wrong, and that's actually what I've been noting so far here. Let's plug this little sucker in a moment. Let me just get you a closer look. Look at this little feel over here. Really comfortable for the thumb. There's no other little button down here, which I never really found these buttons on the side too useful. They always drove me nuts when web browsing, hitting back and forward by accident, or accidentally closing a Word document. And that's actually happened in the workplace a couple of times. It even happened to one of my coworkers actually today. Not using this mouse, but just using a mouse with buttons on the side. You can look at here, the shell. The buttons are actually independent of the shell. Just want to make that note right there. No other mouse buttons here, so you get a total of about 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course your middle over here as well too. It does actually give you the option to go left and right and scroll. The cable definitely has a different feel to it. Almost feels like a shoelace. And one of Rockat's other mice also had this feeling too. Another very lightweight mouse. So basically, I'm just assume that it probably just adds a little bit to, or subtracts a little bit of weight to it when actually holding this thing in your hand like this. This actually just fell off, but the mouse, just wanted to point out the mouse does come with a little USB protector, little casing over here. This actually just came off. I didn't even remember taking it off. So let's go ahead and plug this in. As with many RGB mice, especially Roccat and others as well too, I'm pretty sure it's going to go into your default rainbow color. And we'll see how that looks here. Go ahead and turn it over here so you can get a better view of the mouse buttons over here. So seems like only this area, these button area of the mouse actually lights up. Seems like it's lighting up a little bit more now that I've some time's gone by. So it does have that rainbow effect right now, since there's no configuration on the mouse itself. And it seems like just the colors is really just reflecting on the mouse buttons here. So a little bit down here in the center, but nothing on the side and nothing on the bottom either as well too. So if any of you are absolute freaks about RGB options, this one might give you a little bit of limitations, with the exception of colors obviously over here. So just bear that in mind as well too. However, the colors are definitely pretty bright. You can see the honeycomb looking shell inside, and definitely looking forward to doing a little sound test over here. So obviously you can control the colors here, and also the mode that you have the colors flashing here, such as heartbeat, breathing, and other options. And all those options are available with the Roccat Swarm software, which I'll go ahead and demonstrate very shortly. Let's go ahead and do a quick sound test over here and see how this thing sounds when clicking every single button and also scrolling as well too. Pretty interesting feel. So this mouse already definitely does conform to my hand pretty well. Pretty decently sized mouse over here, so nothing a little bit smaller for a big hand such as mine to some degree. And obviously no buttons down here. My thumb doesn't feel like it's actually going to bump into anything. It also does seem like they actually raise these two mouse buttons just a tad bit when compared to other Roccat mice. I'm going to go ahead and pull over my Kone IMO over here. Though could just be maybe just the illusion, but over time I have gotten, unfortunately, had to get used to these buttons on the side, which I honestly just don't even use, mostly for like browsing back and forward and other stuff as well too. But I actually almost don't even feel or even sense that there's even buttons there at all, so my thumb isn't actually even bumping into anything. Pretty good grip feel on the mouse for sure. And obviously the clicking sound really feels unique. I believe this is actually a new body that they're basically using for this particular mouse, and feels amazing. Actually, probably going to give this a shot in the workplace and see how it just performs. My only little thing is I'm actually more used to mice that actually have a little bit more weight to it. You might have actually seen another review where I did mention very briefly that had the older version of a mouse, a Roccat Kone mouse, and even also the EMPs, but one of those actually had little built-in weights inside that you can actually put down here, and I actually did put about an extra 5 or 15 grams of little weights there just to add a little bit more weight to it. This mouse obviously is the complete opposite of that, the polar opposite being almost weightless, to be honest. It almost feels like a little hoverboard. Can't imagine how much the wireless version weighs. But despite that, I can actually feel this mouse working pretty well with me, and you can actually see, even though I'm tugging the cable, the mouse isn't really moving on its own. The cable actually really does a good job with that, with the flexibility. So I'm actually starting to see more of the benefits of this particular material here, as opposed to one that actually has less flex and will basically just drag your mouse anywhere you go. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Roccat Swarm software with this mouse. Well, here we have the Roccat Swarm software, which I definitely have reviewed before. You can actually see my Vulcan keyboard, my Kone IMO, and of course the subject of tonight's topic in this video, the Kone Pro. And you will see over here a lovely little picture over here of the mouse. Looks like possibly the colors that it's currently reflecting over here. So let's go ahead over a couple of little options we have here. Under settings, just basically your general options here: vertical scroll speed, DPI switcher. Those two buttons on the side will actually be your switchers for DPI. Usually on Roccat mice, they actually do have that button just around the scroll wheel, a little bit below, or even just around the scroll wheel itself. So those buttons on the side will actually be your DPI selectors in this case. And over here, some other options: double click speed. Mine's is usually pretty high by general. Horizontal tilt speed as well too, and of course your Windows pointer speed if you want to enable mouse acceleration here, something I'm not a big fan of, or even the pointer trails, which you'll actually see right over here. Moving along here, we have some button assignments. Not too many buttons on this particular mouse it seems, but here we are. You actually do have the scroll represents a couple of buttons over here, your left and right, and of course the two buttons on the side here. You can definitely set up some easy shift keys and whatnot. These options I actually don't even use myself, but the options are obviously here. If you've used easy shift keys on Roccat mice before, your options are still here. Of course, creating some macros and keeping some profiles down here are also options as well too. And of course, the tab that a lot of people are really interested in right now is, of course, your Illumination. And seems like we have the similar options we've had before. Let me go ahead and just set up the breathing one that I'm usually accustomed to, and just pick out a lovely little color like blue over here. And actually seems like it treats left and right two different colors here, so you can definitely do a custom and just go ahead and just pick out the blue color that you want. But just for reference, I'll just go ahead and just leave it like this so you can actually see it, blue and a slightly lighter cloud looking blue for the right click right over there. And of course some other options here, your wave, and of course that basically the rainbow color option that happens every time you plug this thing into another computer. I'm curious to see if this mouse will actually retain its color sequence even if you disconnect it and relocate it to another computer, or even if you actually shut off the Swarm software. I did mention in some other videos that I actually prefer when a device does retain its colors even though the software is gone, or even though you plug into another computer, unless of course there is a different Roccat software configuration there. It's just not really a deal breaker for me, but something I really just like as an option. My very first Roccat mouse from 2011, 2012 had that option, and I'm always curious to understand why they actually took that out. Though it seems like they have reintroduced it again in Roccat Kone mouse that I've actually reviewed before, and hopefully this one as well too, so I guess we'll see in a bit. Anytime you make any change here, just be sure to hit the apply button just to make sure that all your settings have actually taken place. And of course, if you want to save them as well too, you do have the options for profile and your profile slots just below as well too. And of course, last but not least, some advanced options over here. Sound feedback, if you want sound feedback when you're changing DPI, angle snapping, polling rate, LED timeout, which is actually pretty useful. After a few minutes, if you're not using the mouse, the lights will automatically turn off, etc, etc, and some other options as well too. And of course your good old reset button. If you actually believe you messed up or just want to start from scratch, you can go ahead and utilize this button right over here. Going back to the Illumination, just to compare the my Kone IMO mouse over here, you'll see there's definitely more options for colors over here. I obviously just have everything set to standard blue, but on the Kone Pro, the only options, as I mentioned earlier, the colors only really appear through the left and right mouse buttons, and that's basically the only options you do have here. Something around the scroll, or maybe around the sides, would have been pretty nice, but this is a fairly limited RGB mouse. Some people actually not a big fan of RGB mice, to be honest, and you'll just basically just turn it completely off, as you do have the option here just by hitting the brightness all the way down to the lowest, and it actually just completely turns it off over here. So just something to keep in mind. Your options for LED colors here are a little limited, even though you have a pretty unlimited palette of colors available, but where those colors are actually going to be applied on the mouse is just basically on the left and right mouse keys over here. And here's that color scheme that I left the Roccat Swarm software going here, with a blue on this side and basically a white color or a light blue color on this side. It just basically appears white. For anyone who's actually hoping to be a little bit of a blend over here in the middle, there really isn't. I'm actually looking at it right now dead on, and the blue and the white are actually two completely on their own over here, so it's hardly any blending, if any at all. If anyone's actually really looking for just a lot of color on this mouse, this might not be the one for you. There are definitely other options for color, though I will tell you, on many Roccat mice and other gaming mice as well too, you usually just have little cutout sections for color. This over here does actually give you almost a good half of the entire mouse button that will actually give you complete color here. So that's actually basically a different way to actually approach a mouse coloring in RGB over here, so something to keep in mind. And as I mentioned before, I am noticing as I use this mouse a little bit more throughout the evening that this cable material is actually pretty beneficial. You can actually see as I move this cable around like this, almost as I'm about to do jump roping with this mouse, the mouse just doesn't move at all. Just to show you over here, my Roccat Kone IMO, just doing the smallest little yank on the cable basically just moves the mouse around a little bit, and that can be a little bit of I'm sure if you have actually done some gaming, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about over here. But even so, one thing I actually do really enjoy about this mouse is the actual feel of it. It really does conform to the hand really well. And of course, the material just feels really solid all around. And of course, especially those mouse buttons, they just feel and sound amazing. Hey everyone, hope you found that review pretty useful. Here's a little guy over here. Pretty amazing looking mouse so far. Amazing feel to it. The performance seems pretty solid so far. The shell obviously looks, the material of this mouse looks very solid as well too. And in case anyone's wondering, I did actually plug this mouse in with the Swarm software closed and also plug it into another computer, and it actually does retain its color scheme, which is actually a big plus in my eyes. I'm actually looking forward to using this in the workplace, trying to see how it performs there, and of course I'm going to throw it at a little bit of gaming as well too, some 3D shooters and maybe some strategy related games as well too. Holding the mouse like this, I actually hardly feel any weight. It almost reminds me of those old like cheapy Lenovo mice. They would come with a brand new computer that just basically had no weight, no feel to it whatsoever. And this mouse definitely approaching the even lighter than those mice at all. It's almost actually kind of scary. It makes me think if I squeeze this mouse a little bit too much, or I have a very bad habit of sometimes doing this with gaming mice. And I can actually just consider myself breaking the mouse button or even just cracking the shell itself. But this material really does feel very solid. Mouse cable again, material, very interesting design here to just keep the mouse in one place when you're just got the cable and the slack is just basically moving everywhere. And who needs this thing to move even a single centimeter over when you have the DPI set to a very low number, and of course your sniper shot just completely misses completely. Who wants that? And just to go ahead and give you a little bit of a color feel, go ahead and plug that in and you'll see it still retains the same color over here scheme that I set up earlier. So, and the colors actually really match pretty well. I mean, if you're looking for an absolute white color, and you're looking for an absolute blue color, not something in between like a purple color, which occasionally some RGB mice have actually had an issue with. Call me old-fashioned, but sometimes I just like to keep a blue scheme on mice. On my second computer, I prefer a green one. On family members' computers, they prefer a purple. And I do notice a very small distinction between the blue and the purple. Doesn't seem to be the case in this mouse, which actually another plus here. If you're really looking for the RGB accuracy over here, this one seems to really not disappoint whatsoever. So here you are, the Roccat Kone Pro mouse. Let me know if you got any comments or questions. Be sure to like and subscribe if you really enjoyed it. I'll absolutely be posting up some new reviews and whatnot as I'm getting my hands on hardware, which is still really hard these days. To all my PC builder friends out there, I can understand your pain. I'm going to make a video very soon regarding my pain, regarding just having hardware and just missing one product or component. It just makes everything just a lost cause.
Hope everyone is doing okay.
Staying safe as the world regains some sense of normalcy, and we're hopefully heading in the right direction. And of course, this mouse definitely is a good little symbol that Rockat's definitely keeping their product line up and going as well too. I believe they also released some new keyboards as well. Thanks again for watching, everyone. As always, stay safe.